Morning, everyone. Welcome January 12th. Welcome back. Hope everybody had a great holiday season, a nice break, and we're get going again, January 12th. And if we could have a roll call, please.
Roger Johnson,
Present?
Nick Mihalik,
Present.
Brian Checkis,
Present.
Stephen Graham,
Present.
Michael Cuevas,
Present.
Brad McPherson,
Present.
Gregory Gabriel.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay. And then item 2, approval of minutes in your package. Anyone have any comments on minutes from the December 8th hearing? Or a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, minutes from December 8th approved. Item 3, report from City Urban Designer, Ms. Aponte.
Good morning, Ana Maria Ponte, City Urban Designer. For the record, I just want to start the year wishing everybody a Happy New Year. I'm glad everybody is here this year, and I, again, thank everybody for your help and support through all this process. Some of you have been here for many, many years, and other ones not that long, but we hope to have you here for a long time, helping us to take the downtown in a much better way. That's all I have for this year. We're looking forward for this year full of new projects.
Perfect, thank you. And then I'll respond on behalf of everyone here and thanking you for all the good work you guys do as yourself individually and the whole staff at the city. So it's all working very well. It's exciting times here downtown, so it's good to be part of it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so item 5, declaration of ex parte. Any ex parte communication from any board members with today's case? Okay, none. So noted. We'll move in today's public hearing. Anyone that will be speaking or presenting testimony for today's case, if you could stand and be sworn in.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And then when you do speak, just step up to the microphone, state your name and address. And if anyone, I did get a couple of comment cards. If anyone in the audience and public wants to say anything about today's case, there's cards outside. You can fill it out and bring them up here, and we'll make sure you're heard. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I have to recuse myself from this case.
Okay.
I have a conflict.
Okay, and you'll just do the paperwork with staff?
All done.
Okay, perfect. Got it.
Thank you.
All right, awesome, thank you. All right, so we'll start with today's case. New case is DMP-ISPR 2101, request by Schutz and Bowen LLP on behalf of NDT Development for DAC approval of proposed streetscape design.
Okay, Mr. Chair, it seems the applicant is still stuck in traffic,
We'll
so.
switch and do yours?
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
perfect.
So we're gonna start with the staff presentation, though, I mean, you will be missing the whole explanation of the project, but you have seen the drawing, so
I
I
was
think we
going to ask
can
for
work
you
with
to
that.
do the presentation first anyways, and then correct myself, but go ahead.
Thank you.
Go back to the old ways. Yeah.
Good morning, Chris Kimmerly, Urban Design Planner.
Morning.
Here we have the North Railroad Avenue streetscape. Again, this is the request for the DAC approval of the proposed streetscape design for North Railroad Avenue between 7th Street and 10th Street. In general, the staff does support this redevelopment and redesign of the North Railroad Avenue corridor. We believe this is an important first step in the overall NOR district redevelopment. The design itself is seen as an enhancement to the public realm. It's a new opportunity for increased activity in businesses, as well as improving the circulation of both pedestrians and traffic. In total, staff does recommend a total of 8 separate conditions to follow this project's approval. Beginning with the first recommendation, we have the provision here to resolve any conflicts with electrical or utility line undergrounding within the proposed landscaping. So this project is a complete overhaul of the streetscape environment, and with that, they plan on using the Silvacell systems for planting areas. And we just have this general provision in here to make sure that when they're excavating and doing the work, that future plans for the landscaped areas, utilities and things are avoided, and if necessary, the locations of trees and stuff are shifted accordingly. The second recommendation here is the implementation of special decorative covers or caps. Should proposed grease traps for restaurants and businesses be within the right-of-way. Due to the conditions of North Railroad Avenue, the west side is primarily all the businesses, and they have a very limited back-of-house space because they abut next to the FEC railway. And because of this, most likely any grease traps that are with the projects will be within the right-of-way. And this suggestion here is just to avoid the unsightly, caps and conditions within the right-of-way and on the sidewalks. Moving on here, we have the replacement of a portion of the tree grates along the west side of North Railroad Avenue with base planting areas, matching that which is on the east side. And then next condition there is to enhance the variety of base planting with additional plant species. So currently for the base planting on the east side of North Railroad Avenue, there is perennial peanut and kunti palms. We have that fourth condition there just to recommend additional variety in plant species and to enhance the overall aesthetics and look of that area. There's quite a bit of variety in the trees themselves, so just to match that with the base planting would be nice. And then, sorry about that. The fifth condition here is to distribute the bike racks throughout the project. Currently, the bike racks are on just the eastern side. We just want to see these spread out more evenly among the streetscape to be more accessible. And the sixth condition here is all pedestrian crossings, just to include white solid painted lines adjacent to the striping there. This is just to help make these crossing areas more visible, provide a more direct route for pedestrians. And the seventh recommendation here, this deals with the proposed street lighting and lamps that are on the eastern side of North Railroad Avenue. We ask that the face of these poles be pulled back a little bit more from the street just for clearance purposes. And we recommend aligning these poles with the proposed street trees if possible. We understand there might be some constraints with that, but at a minimum is about 18 inches from the back of the curb is how we suggest pulling that back. And condition 8 here is to adjust the micromobility station that is proposed within this project just to meet the city required dimensions of at least 6 feet by 30 feet. Again, here, staff is in support and recommending the DAC approval of the North Railroad streetscape improvements with the following conditions 1 through 8, which were just given. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Chris. I guess the applicant's here now? Okay, good. Probably ought to get them sworn in too, if you guys didn't, yep. Yeah, anyone who walked in late just need to get you sworn in real quick before you get started.
We don't need to be sworn in because it's not quasi.
Okay, you tell me, it's all good, here we go. All right, the microphone's yours, applicant, good.
Hi, everyone. Can I take the mask off?
Yep.
Great. Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Ben Hutchins. I'm a landscape architect with Architectonica Geo. Really happy to be here today. This is a very exciting project that we're going to be presenting to you today, the streetscape for North Railroad Avenue. I want to commend staff on their recommendations. I think they're very good. Something that we'll definitely look into incorporating as we move the project forward during the CD phases, should we get approval today. But with that, I'd just like to start looking at the site location. Let me see if I can get a little more screen. And you can see the location, it's kind of abutting that FEC rail line, kind of sets the edge for downtown. Currently, as you're probably aware, it's an industrial neighborhood, industrial streetscape that really is catering to those industrial uses, the warehouses, et cetera. And I think the intent here is to completely redo that streetscape with the idea to make it a place for people instead of just cars and facilitating the warehouse uses. And looking at that and just really kind of reimagining and re-envisioning what this place could be. Again, a place for people, prioritizing the pedestrian over the car. And you'll see that in the street section where we're looking at allocating up to about 80% of the streetscape, or not 80, sorry, 50% of the streetscape for people, where currently it's about 20%. With 5-foot sidewalks on either side, there's no street trees. So really looking at how to incorporate street trees and different amenities that you would expect in a vibrant pedestrian section, similar to that of Clematis and what you have here at Rosemary, with the curbless conditions and bolstered vegetation, making it a really exciting place and for people. And we're looking at it along that North Railroad Avenue corridor between the streets of 7th and 10th, all the way there. And you can see in the site plan a little bit that kind of green edge that is almost expanding that public realm and amplifying that space to make it more usable, and you can see it in the image below as well. And this is kind of highlighting that overall scope, specifically the streetscape, but also that green edge. And you can see the intersections with, kind of detailing the crossings, making it unique, creating a sense of place and reinforcing that kind of identity along that railroad corridor. And the variety of landscape you can also see depicted here with different flowering trees, different types of trees. So it's definitely not a formal design intent, something a little more loose and irregular and interesting and rich. And then diagrammatically thinking about how does it perform. And of course, we're still going to maintain a vehicular component here, two-way driving lanes, but having that green edge along that eastern side, which really creates a new kind of street typology and something unique to downtown area. And you can see that even more so probably in the section cut, where you have the property line and this kind of right-of-way condition, which is about 50 feet wide, but looking at, this, that's the kind of the benefit of the public-private partnership, where we can actually amplify that space and create more green space and place for people. And this is just a slide showing the biodiversity of the tree palette and thinking about different types of tree species and the resiliency associated with biodiversity, and adding color and interest and a richness throughout the streetscape. And definitely, I think there is an opportunity to bolster the landscape palette a bit, specifically for the understory, and thinking about adding some more natives, maybe Fakahatchee grass, maybe Bahama coffee, and different things to kind of really amplify that green. And here's a kind of a blow-up plan of the layout, showing some of these programmatic uses with the sidewalks on either side of the street, the driving lanes, a curbless valley gutter condition, and some of the detailing and how the landscape design is kind of creating these zones and distinguishing the different uses in the street section. And then, of course, thinking about sense of place and how does this place have its own unique identity, and how does it build on the history of that place, the associations with Flagler and the railway behind all the warehouse buildings that are currently there. And we're looking at incorporating actual rail lines into the paving, railroad ties into the planters, and that sort of thing to kind of, reinforce that sense of place. And here you can see some of the materiality, and it's kind of this mix between that industrial warehouse aesthetic and also the railroad, but having a lot of texture, a lot of richness and material, nothing plastic, that sort of thing, right? And then looking at unique seating arrangements, public seating within the right-of-way itself, kind of central in the space, and how we can incorporate different types of furnishings throughout the streetscape. And then, of course, the importance of lighting and the distribution for safety and comfort throughout, looking at uplighting some of the landscape, and then very simple poles that kind of don't take away from the aesthetic of the neighborhood, that kind of build on that industrial, simple aesthetic. And then, again, trying to encourage different forms of mobility in this area. So we have lots of bike racks, Uber. There's been spaces allocated for rideshare drop-off and pickup, as well as a micro-mobility station, which will be expanding per the staff recommendations. And then also looking at incorporating some of these bike racks and things on the western side to kind of tie the two sides together. So that's something we'll look at moving forward. And then kind of highlighting what I think is also very unique about this project is these green zones that are on the eastern side that are flexible, open spaces that really expand that public realm and create opportunities for different types of programming, markets, events, artwork. And just some early on sketches about how can we kind of activate this space with the intersections in particular being special moments. And this is kind of that like a more polished rendering that incorporates a lot of the design items that we have in here to date, really illustrating that pedestrian environment, which is vastly different from what you see today. And then kind of an evening time rendering, more of a bird's eye view of that stretch starting at 7th, looking down the corridor towards 10th, and seeing kind of the activation that we're proposing here in the streetscape. And one item we'd like to point out in particular is this kind of feature at the gateway. I mean, this is by no means a finished design, but I think we are exploring this idea of some sort of gateway threshold element to kind of signalize the district. And that concludes what we have for today. If there's any questions, happy to
Thank you.
answer.
Nice presentation, looks great.
Thank you.
We'll probably have some questions later, but does anyone have any immediate questions? We'll hear from the public and then come back. Okay, good, thanks, perfect. All right, that's, we have the staff presentation, applicants complete. We have a couple of comments from people in the audience today. We'll start with Tomas Botan. May not pronounce that right, you can correct me when you get up here.
Hello. I just wanted to come to give support to the project. We have several properties on 8th Street, and we're very supportive of the project. The two things I wanted to stress is just in the parking, are they going to work to do any electric car parking? I think that's something that's going to be very popular in the future, and so if we're redoing the streetscape and all the electrical, if we put in the plans so that they could have that in the future. And then my other question was, in the green spaces, it looked like they were solid green spaces, but on one of the maps, it looked like they had a cut-in to get to the parking. I wanted to make sure that people could access their cars without having to go to a full street, a full block, because what I'm afraid of, if it's all green space, eventually you're just going to see a track where people just start following each other kind of halfway through the block. So just to see if there could be a path done halfway between the blocks so people can access their cars.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, thanks for your comments. Why don't we just go ahead and, can the applicant just answer those two quick questions? I'm sure you have an answer already.
Hi, I'm Damien Barr. Nice to be here. I'm with NDT Development. The electric charging stations, we are going to be putting electric charging stations in the surface parking lots along North Rail Road, and then in the future in the parking to the north. And with regard to a walkway through the middle of the park, there's something we'll look at. I don't fully understand it, but we'll have a look at it.
Good.
In terms of making the break through the block, there already are public alleyways that I think do that. We can still look, if we feel like there's still a need, we can look at that. But
All right,
just wanted to
perfect. Thanks for the
My
consider.
main concern was, I think, on the last one, because they're very slim, like on 7th Street and 8th Street, but then when you get to like 10th Street, the park looks pretty wide, and so I'm afraid people, instead of going down 10th or 9th, they're just gonna cut through the park, so if we would just, give them access.
All right, we'll take that in, or well, the applicant will take that
Yeah,
into consideration, I'm sure.
I just want to clarify something. The project that is under review today and the board will make a recommendation to the city commission is for the streetscape. The applicant showed the little space of green that they mentioned, like that added green area, that is on private property and is being worked out as part of the surface parking lots that they are proposing to serve the businesses on the west side. But again, that is not part of the streetscape. It's in reality a temporary use. In the future, the idea will be that those parking lots get developed with buildings and probably the green space will get reduced. I will not say eliminated because most likely they will want some outdoor area, but is not part of the right of way. So I just want to clarify that difference.
Yeah, understood. I forgot about that. Thank you. All right, another card here from Susan Stechnij.
Good morning. My name is Susan Steckney, and I live at 411 8th Street. Also own 417, 419, 423, and 425. So we've got a lot of properties in a row, and basically we are way as excited as anyone to have this happening, and happy about the streetscape and the little shops that are going to be there. So just generally in favor. Just one concern is parking on 8th Street is only on one side of the street, and I just want to make sure we don't lose our parking, that people won't be parking there. So, but generally, it's the best thing that's happened to Brailsford ever.
All right.
Thank you.
Good. Thanks for taking time to show up and air your support. And I guess staff can look into the parking issues there if that's okay. Thank you. Okay, any other comments from anyone in the audience today? All right, seeing none, we'll close public discussion of this and go ahead and have any questions or comments of anyone on the board for staff or the applicant? No? Brad?
All right, I'll go first. Firstly, Damien, thanks for coming along. Finally, an accent in this meeting that I can understand. He'll get the joke. But yeah, look, I mean, this is fantastic. Really happy to see this coming forward. I think, this definitely demonstrates the commitment the developer and the city's making to this area, to see the streetscape design coming in now. So often we go through these processes of zoning changes, land use changes, all these kind of things. We set all the regulations, but we don't focus on the public realm enough. And to see this on pretty much an immediate agenda following other things we've been looking at is fantastic. So really happy to see it. A couple of quick questions I had more for clarification. It actually comes to the parking issue and the on-street parking. So from what I can tell, Railroad Avenue, there'll be no on-street parking at all. It will be only, looks like, Uber and Lyft drop-off. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. All right. That's fine. I'm good with that. Probably just want a bit of clarification on the furnishing zone. How you're going to maintain like that separation between the travel lanes and the furnishing areas. Something I think's worked really well on Clematis is, the multi-purpose kind of bollards that go up and down, that kind of thing keeps that separation between the pedestrian and the vehicles. On Rosemary, particularly down to City Place, I think they've kind of faced some challenges there with their kind of seamless design between the street and the furnishing areas and the areas just off the street, and they've kind of had to come in and they've brought in all these planters. You see them now, and basically kind of as I walk down it, you see it, and it's like there's no real separation between what's the road and what's not the road. And while I understand the intent of that is to make it more pedestrian friendly, I think the result has been sometimes you just see cars just pull in and just park in a place that is really not intended for that. So I just want to know, is some thought being given to what you're going to do? Is it going to be bollards, or is there, I know there's no curb, but is there a small raised section of landscaping or something? Can you just clarify that for me? That's really my only comment. Other than that, I really like the design.
Well, I think, we do have a lot of furniture, a lot of trees and poles, and then we have the curb cuts for the parking and stuff. So I think the intent I'll just jump to the plan real quick.
Yeah,
just
I was
so-
kind of particularly probably looking more at like the west side. Yeah, probably.
The
even-
west side,
Yeah. So you're planting and furnishing zone there.
like here, for example.
Yeah,
right?
is that what's that dark color? Is that just a different paving
This is
material?
yeah.
or-
This is a kind of ADA bumps,
Uh-huh.
but on a iron plate. So those help delineate, and I think very clearly there's a distinction, at least on the ground plane, right?
Uh-huh.
There's no barrier, but for sure, like tonality wise, that in addition with the valley gutter, they help distinguish that line.
Okay.
I think this street is also a little bit unique and as it relates to Rosemary, because Rosemary is more connected to that grid.
Uh-huh.
Whereas I feel like this street is kind of like this destination.
Yep.
So in that regard, I think that helps reduce it a little bit, but I understand the comment. We can definitely look at some bollards if we need to add them in
Yep.
here and there to really kind of reinforce that edge.
Yeah, look, I just think it's something to think of, going ahead is just thinking how you keep that separation.
Clear.
If those plantings and furnishings don't stay in there on a permanent basis, that can sometimes by a driver be viewed as a default parking space. And then next thing you know, someone's pulling in to just run in and pick up
Sure.
their takeout or something like that. But
Sure.
that's my only real comment. Other thing just regarding wayfinding signage to off-street parking, those lots up and down the east side. I think that'll be obviously, a critical component to going forward. So,
Sure.
Yeah,
Moving
that'll be my
forward,
only
we'll
other
look
comment.
into making sure that's clear.
Yeah.
Thanks.
yeah, I'm good.
Thanks, Steve. Brad, you got
Hey,
it?
Steve. Yeah, we actually do have a series of quite a significant number of bollards on that
Okay.
street.
Yep.
It's in the civil plan, the plans that are in with PPRC.
Okay.
So yeah, they're strategically placed to stop
Okay. Great.
cars, and some are movable, some are permanent.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Brad,
Yeah,
you got it?
my only question is in hearing the comments about the residents not wanting to lose their parking on the various 7th, 8th, 9th streets and then not having any parking on the main street, I'm curious, as you described it, a destination, I think it is too. Micromobility seems to be on the rise significantly, but I don't think people travel too far in the micromobility space. So where is the parking? For those who drive there, I'm assuming it's at one of the ends, the north side maybe?
Yeah, so there's actually a series of parking. So looking at this slide here, so there's surface parking between the alley on 7th and 8th, all the way to the alley between 9th and 10th. So these parking spaces here. And then we actually have to the north of the project, from north of 11th, we're building surface parking up there at the start of the project to house all of the customers for the project. And then as we develop up north, we'll build structures and be able to service the parking. So
Will those be completed sort of in tandem with the commercial piece of this?
yeah, exactly. I mean, just even as operators, we want the businesses to succeed. So you need parking. And so these will be absolutely, and then the surface parkings to the north will be done as well at the sort of phase 1 of the project.
Makes sense. I like it. I think it looks great. And I also like that gateway entrance.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Thanks, Brad. Greg, you got anything?
Yes, I had just a comment regarding roadway safety. So because this area gonna be activated and gonna draw more people, and this is not comment not really directed towards the project site, Railway Avenue, but it's also concerned with the FEC line, that if there's any measures that can be taken so people doesn't get curious and trying to go back there, if there's some type of signage and awareness that put in place, because once you activate an area, people will draw more people, but also keep in mind that to reduce fatality on the FEC corridor, we might think about putting some signage or sensors, anything that possible.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we have, and we've been working with the FEC for quite a while, and we are actually leasing all of the land behind those buildings. And as part of that agreement, we actually have to put a fence up from 25 feet off the railway line, the entire length of the project. So that'll stop people being able to walk through there. And we'll definitely have signage as well.
Thank you.
You know,
Thanks. Michael?
Hello. Fantastic public-private partnership. I think, everyone is looking forward to seeing this. Last night, I had a conversation with my better half who sits on the DDA board, and we discussed some of the things that have gone well with the streetscapes on Clematis and Rosemary Square. So a couple of questions. One, the material for the pavers on the street looks like it's a pretty dense cobblestone type material that would be looks different from everything that we've seen on Clematis and Rosemary. Is that the intent? Is it's going to be a cobblestone type material?
yeah, and that is intentional. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Because that, I think, serves a good, purpose to slow traffic down.
Yeah,
where-
and we spent quite a bit of time with Rafael Clemente too, walking Clematis and going through his sort of things that have worked, haven't worked, and we've made decisions based around that for the design.
Okay, so that's good. It's the same contractor, vendor that you're hiring to do the work for the streetscape as that did Clematis and Rosemary Square?
Yeah, it's Burkhardt Construction, same contractor.
Burkhardt Construction, okay. So some of these comments are may have already been addressed. I know these projects have been going on for several years now, and have all been fantastic. But I just want to make a couple comments. Obviously, if there's cobblestone on the street, it's going to be a different paver material for the sidewalks, I would imagine. I remember on the 100 block of Clematis, almost, I would say within 6 months, some of these larger, thinner pavers cracked very quickly. So I'm sure that has been part of the discussion, ongoing discussion, to not have that happen again. But it's just a noted. So whatever they use for that material, of course, that didn't work out so well for some of the areas. At the same time, I just walked Clematis on the way here. Our DDA has a $500,000 power washing contract. Clematis versus Rosemary Square, the pavers look fantastic. It looks clean there. And according to the DDA, the reason Clematis isn't looking as good is because they say that pavers are porous or too porous. I don't know if there's a difference in what they use at Rosemary Square or Clematis, but I just walked down Clematis and you see tire treads, you see staining from landscaping, you see food staining. It just doesn't look nearly as good. So I don't know if they use different material, but whatever the case may be, I don't know if can't be power washed or if that's something that has just we need to reinvestigate. But they have a very significant power washing budget, and to see Clematis looking dirty at this point, it's only some of those were only a couple of years old. I'm not sure what the case may be. Again, so the material, I think, is just, we have to really look at that, and potentially maybe you can seal it. That may be something they didn't do in the past, but I just want these. This project to look great and be able to be maintained. And so those are two comments that we discussed last night. One other one, and again, it might be addressed, might not be, but the garbage cans, I actually didn't see any renderings at all, but the DDA is having to spend some $60,000 or $80,000 on different garbage cans because they didn't have any rain bonnets. So that's just a comment that we don't want to, again, use the same ones, or we want to eliminate using garbage cans that filled up with water, basically, because they didn't have the rain bonnets. And then just one kind of thing that I saw that the staff recommended the pedestrian crossings to be marked with solid painted lines. I guess you just want enhanced crossings. I saw some of the crisscrossing lines. Is that what staff was recommending for?
So on I guess it's hard to see here, but on either end here of the crossings, just to include a solid line just to further delineate that safety crossing area.
Okay. It's kind of something that, a bit of an ask or a dream of mine, and, this is going to be a very, hip, cool, I don't know, for lack of a better word, area that I think maybe we could experiment with something like this, but we've tried to get the city to consider doing like these 3-dimensional painted sidewalks. I don't know if you've seen them, but if you just Google like 3D sidewalks, they look like they're literally coming out of the ground. And again, the idea is, of course, to slow traffic down because it's more of an artistic element. It combines functionality, but it also looks very interesting. So, of course, people have to slow down when they see things like that. I'd love to see that on Quadrill because people just race down Quadrill, especially at that intersection on Hibiscus. But we've been shot down because it's state controlled. And of course, that's, we can push back. It's difficult to do on a street like that, I think. But maybe we could experiment with something like that because, obviously what is in the rendering looks pretty utilitarian. I mean, it doesn't have any artistic component, but if there's any place that we might be able to experiment with something that would combine an artistic element and also have the goal of course, really keeping people driving slow, I think maybe we could try it in this area. I don't know if it would work with, these cobblestone pavers, but obviously you're going to paint on these pavers to do the side, do the crosswalk. So it's just a
I'm not familiar with the ones exactly you mentioned, but I know that there have been some concerns about painting the asphalt when we did the intersection on Fern Street because sometimes that distracts the drivers and maybe some issues in terms of safety. So that has been also like a little bit pushed back from that perspective.
Well,
so
these
I'm
are
not
going to
sure
be
the one that you're talking about.
Yeah, these are going to be painted though, right? I mean, the crosswalks.
Just a regular stripe paint with the traditional the horizontal lines and then the 2 bars on the 2 ends.
Okay, and I don't know if it could be pulled off if there's these cobblestones. It might not just work, but anyway, just just kind of a thought that might enhance the area because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of cool, artistic, creative people in that area, and that might be something to be considered. So that's it. Just some comments to try to avoid, some of the things that.
Real quick.
Yeah.
We do have a detail where we're actually using different color pavers to achieve the crossings.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's what I was going to recommend instead of painting your.
Yeah. So it's actually
Yeah, I think that would be better than painting over your nice cobblestones for sure.
Okay.
Yes.
But overall, super excited to see this move forward, and that's all I have.
Good, thanks, Michael. Just a quick follow-up on your comment is relative to the quality control of the paver materials. Are there any standards with the West Palm Construction Services that either approve or disapprove material specifications from subcontractors or design specifications? Or is it entirely up to the developer and design build team to
Well, the engineering
specify?
department is reviewing the project, and they will go through the entire process with the city for that, and I'm sure the engineer is making the standards. However, the applicant or the developer will be in charge of the maintenance of all these streetscapes. So in that sense, we allow them to have different materials than our standard for the city.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, sorry about that. Nick, you got anything?
Yep, thank you. Very exciting project. Thank you for your presentations. They were both very good. Just some gut reactions as I'm looking at a few things to maybe give you some food for thought and consideration. Couple questions first. I saw a lot of focus on the streetscape, understandably, but what do the parking lots look like? If you're on the street and you're looking back at that parking from the sidewalk, is there a little 2-foot hedge? Is there a 6-foot opaque wall? What is the treatment of that edge adjacent to the parking?
Right. So per city standards, we're required to screen the parking lots from the public realm, from the right of way. So we have a buffer of planting. It's 5-foot minimum that sits along the frontage of the lot, and then of course creating these kind of open, flexible spaces within that, right? So the intent is that landscape would do a lot of screening for from view.
So I think the code requirement is a 2-foot-high hedge going in. Is the intent to put that in and let it grow to 4 or
So-
5
so-
feet so you block the cars, or do you want to have, visibility or?
So we have a hedge as the minimum to meet the code, and that, I believe that's 3 feet. I'd have to double
Okay.
check. Maybe I never.
3 feet?
It's required to be planted at 24 inches and grow up to a maximum of 4
Maximum.
Maximum of 4 to be
for
maintained?
those hedges, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But it's a layered landscape, so we have trees as well, we have smaller shrubs and stuff, so it's gonna be a mix of things that really break up. It's not gonna be this kind of formal, line.
Thank you. And then the other comment, just sort of gut reaction, when I saw your palette of trees and I see a sable palm as the first palm, my first reaction is that, I guess maybe you love sable palms or hate sable palms. My personal opinion is that it's probably not really appropriate for this project as opposed to like a native buffer or some kind of restoration. And I say that in the context of, just thinking about future maintenance, but also just a visual impact. If you've been to City Place / Rosemary Square / The Square, that landscaping there is outstanding. It's like you look at these individual specimens of either trees or palms, and I'm from Florida, I'm a landscape architect, and it makes me say, wow. If I see a sable palm on a streetscape here, I'd be like, that's not as good as it could be. So again, not designing it for you, just kind of throwing it out there as a gut reaction for sable palm use.
I understand the comment. I think just what it does give you, though, is a lot of height, like day one, this, and I think you can introduce them with a little bit of character and movement to the trunk as well. I also think they do pair quite well with this industrial aesthetic. I think it's a very different aesthetic than you have at Rosemary. So I think that's just trying to, it's the state tree. I think in a sense of place, I think thinking about the railroad, the history of this site, how many sable palms probably were here historically, that started to drive that narrative. But, we're happy to look at other species as well. But that's a thought behind it.
Appreciate it, yep. And then the other reaction was on the image, which is a really great image, especially seeing the bright line in the background. But again, thinking and understanding that's conceptual, I see a lot of really tall palms, whether they're coconut palms or Washingtonia palms. And
In the views, right?
maybe you can bring that up just to
Yeah, sure.
give a thought.
So maybe these images down here, right?
There we go.
Yeah.
So again, and I know it's just conceptual, but a lot of times if those are Washingtonias, they're going to be 90 feet tall
Sure.
and ultimately not be really a streetscape tree. So my intent's not to certainly copy the square or anything, but just the concept of the species selection, and maybe it just comes down to palms and just sort of focused on that for a little bit, but an opportunity to have every planting area be something special, not only day one, but again in the future, so that you don't have to worry about, maybe maintenance problems in the future, that if you're going to be maintaining it, just this nice, sustainable, and frankly, pedestrian level. If this is all about pedestrian scale and walking and sitting, a palm tree head that's 30, 40, 50 feet in the air is, maybe providing a little shade, but that experience of the ground level, you're just seeing telephone poles and sort of trunks of trees. So that's one comment there. The other comment is, while I appreciate the context and the history of the railroad, when I hear planters are going to be having wooden railroad ties, it sort of smacks of a literal interpretation, maybe, as opposed to an abstracted one. And it seems to me that might be just a little bit hokey in the overall streetscape context. This seems like an aesthetic that's following, I guess, a hip kind of modern urbana and hardscape. And just to throw that out there, maybe it's okay, but just again, when I hear that, I kind of think of maintenance in the future and gravity and erosion, and all of a sudden it just doesn't look good. And so I think that's just something to consider as you're going through the detail.
Understand that. I think we were trying to limit the use of the wood. I mean, you can see the plant here, it's blown up, but yeah, I think I understand the comment, and certainly, it's not required. In this configuration, it's something that we could definitely remove if we're worried about maintenance. So I understand.
Appreciate it, thank you. And I think that's it. I thank you for your presentation. Very nice.
Thank you for your comments.
Yeah, thanks, Nick. Yeah, I echo a lot of the same comments. It's a wonderful project, very exciting. Just to follow up on that, I mean, I like the sable palms, but you guys, you're the professionals to do what you want. I think it just, you know, Ben, you mentioned earlier introducing some of the natives and the grasses, and I think that all blends well together, so. But, and it's, you know, the railroad ties, it's interesting. I like the connotation, the reference with the metal ties forming the edging to the planters, and maybe use more of the metal, who knows, but overall, I think it's a wonderful project. I don't have any other further comments. You know, good luck with it all. So I think it's a great effort. Again, a nice effort with the staff and applicant as usual, so thanks for the coordination there. And my only comment would be, back to those pedestrian crossings, we already talked about it, to do those in pavers and not paint. So the only thing I would change on the staff recommendations would be use a paver material or a similar material in a different contrasting color instead of the paint.
Yeah, I don't think our recommendation intended was to paint it. It was just to add the treatment of the white element, and it's going to be a different paver color to create the pattern.
Perfect.
Mr. Chair, I had one more question.
Yep.
And this may be handled differently. I guess maybe it's a question for the city as a whole, too. On micromobility, I've recently been to Tampa and Miami in the Wynwood area. I think I know there's connections here, but I was really surprised to see all these electric scooters just strewn everywhere, to the point where you're climbing over them on the streetscape and literally almost tripping them on the side of the curb, which I don't quite understand how that can occur, because I think you have to give your credit card to rent these things. And I've heard story after story. I was at a convention. Kids are throwing them into Tampa Bay. They're just somehow not accountable for these things. So I haven't seen it in West Palm Beach. I guess I'm wondering why. Do our micromobility things differ from Tampa and Miami Beach? And it's a good thing that we don't have them, but I just don't know if it's somehow going to become that one day because of the structure of these things.
I don't have the full information. The city just entered into an agreement with a micromobility provider. They are actually right now in the process of asking for the permits to install the stations throughout the downtown, and I think some of them are a little bit outside downtown. I think they're bikes at this point, but I believe the intention is to add the scooters in the near future if they're not included at this right now.
Okay, and maybe it's just a programming thing, or I don't know how you control it. I would think you'd get a big fine on your credit card when you throw it into the bay, but I guess not.
I don't know. It's a good question. But.
Mr. Chair, if I may comment on the micromobility. So the issue with micromobility is, one, the payment system, when you swipe, that you have to swipe and take a picture once you park it. Sometimes that works, but that's just saying the operator no longer is accountable for it. But you have a pedestrian that could kick it. So the way they are trying to resolve this is, at night, you'll have a maintenance crew go put them back in the geo zone or pick them up, recharge them. So it's hard to manage, but it's really based on the initial contract for the maintenance crew that own it to basically ensure that they are not all over the place. So it's two-part: the operator and then the driver, and then the operator for the company to make sure that they bring them back inside a geofence and not somebody else's property. So it's fairly challenge.
Okay. Thank you.
Good, thanks. Okay, any other comments, or someone want to make a motion? Yeah, Brian's not here. He's going to do it now. Steven?
I guess we're making a recommendation, aren't we? So I'll make a motion to recommend approval of item DMP-ISPR 21-01 regarding the review on the proposed modification to the North Railroad Avenue streetscape, subject to the recommended conditions by staff in their staff report. How's that sound?
Okay, perfect. Motion or second?
Second?
Second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thanks and good luck with the project. Appreciate your hard work. Okay, that's it for today's cases. Any unfinished business or new business?
I just want to mention that related to this project, on Monday, the City Commission approved the first reading of the NORA for the zoning atlas, so the rezoning and the urban land development regulation amendments. We are waiting for the DEO approval. It should be coming this week, and then the second reading will be presented to the City Commission for all the items on February 7th. So pretty soon we will be completed at least the regulatory changes that are necessary for the whole new NORA district.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Pretty excited about it.
Thank you, yeah, very exciting. Okay, anything else, anyone? All right, we'll adjourn today's meeting. Thanks all.
Thank you.